Kelsie, you want to just give us a little bit about your background and how you got where you are today? What got you into development?
I would say the big thing would be my parents. They started, my dad was a Kiyosaki follower. Like, he read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and next thing you know, it's like all he could talk about. He was one of the unlucky teachers that he had just changed school districts, so he got laid off first.
Oh.
And he had already been doing the redevelopment game.
Okay.
So he's like, let's just go full send. Found Robert Kiyosaki and even tried to get me to read the book. And this was 2008. And I was like, why do I care about a poor dad and a rich? Like, I don't care.
You were in high school at the time, or?
2008, I would have been in 8th grade.
In 8th grade. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an early start to that.
Yeah. So.
Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, and we're super excited to have Kelsie LPJ on the podcast today. We're out here in Monmouth, about 2 minutes from a project that she's working on, and it's great because Kelsie's actually we went to the same high school at Sprague, which is just 15 minutes that way. Kelsie, you want to just give us a little bit about your background and kind of like, how you got where you are today? What got you into development?
I would say the big thing would be my parents. They started, my dad was a Kiyosaki follower. Like, he read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and next thing you know, it's like all he could talk about.
And this was like in a time that you could remember?
Yeah. I think this was, I don't know, when initially the book
when it
was
first
published,
came out. Okay.
But heavily in like the 2008 crash period.
Okay.
So he was one of the unlucky teachers that he had just changed school districts, so he got laid off first.
Oh.
And he had already been doing the redevelopment game.
Okay.
So he's like, let's just go full send. Found Robert Kiyosaki and even more so was obsessed with it and tried to get me to read the book. And this was 2008. And I was like, why do I care about a dad and a poor dad and a rich? Like, I don't care.
You were in high school at the time, or?
2008, I would have been in 8th grade.
In 8th grade. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an early start to that.
Yeah. So, but I went with them to almost every showing that they went to look at. I went to, I was on the job site a lot with them. I watched my dad do all of it. And then when I was 18 or 19, they bought a building from Monmouth City. Actually, it was one of those silent auctions. Starting bid was $50,000. Wow. Nobody gets to know who's bidding what and for what purpose. And they won it at $60,000, and I think like $1. It was like $60,000 and $1.
Wow.
And it was kind of two commercial spaces with an empty storage, no stairs, no access to its space above it. It's actually just across the street here.
And why Monmouth? Sorry to interject, but
they had already owned a few buildings in Monmouth.
Were you guys living here or just?
Nope, we lived in the same spot in South River Road pretty much until I turned 20. They sold it.
Okay, but they just found Monmouth to be a place that they wanted to invest in, huh?
Yeah, it was growing. It has the university. It was very well. The businesses were thriving here for a small town. So it just felt like a good space to get into commercial/residential. And that's what, at that time, he was trying to do, was get rid of his residential and start doing more commercial.
Got it.
So, but the building across the street, I kind of went to my dad. I was like, how about I do the design and I do the redevelopment of this space and I turn it into a one-bedroom apartment, and then I can live there while I'm in college. And I was 19 at the time. This was 2014. 2013.
Okay.
And he's like, okay, if you do.
So you're going to Western. You were about to start at Western.
I was, at that time specifically, I was playing soccer at Chemeketa.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have a ton of free time, but I had a partner that was game enough at the time that he was like, yeah, let's figure it out and do it if you really want to do it. So,
wow, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
And so it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom. It's got this massive, oversized gas fireplace in the middle of it. So it was a little bit of an oversight, but we paid $200 for it off of Craigslist, because Craigslist was still a thing. And it was a lot of hard work. We did concrete countertops. It cost $300 for a 10 by 10 kitchen of concrete countertops.
Oh, you made your own concrete countertop?
We did them ourselves. So like all of like
sweet.
We did the 2-inch hardwood tongue and groove flooring. We laid the whole thing ourselves for the most part. I mean, my dad helped us immensely, but my partner at the time, he did a huge chunk of the labor. Anything that wasn't something we couldn't do code-wise, like electrical, panel, that kind of thing, we would sub out to friends we knew in the community. So we met some really cool people doing that project, like Jack Waddell. He's an electrician in the area, and the stories he can tell, he's really fun to talk to. Plus a great electrician. He did the majority of all the electricity. That obviously we got to choose where the boxes were, we got to hang the boxes, but we're 18 and 19 at the time, so we couldn't do the electricity.
Right.
Plumbing wise, I chose every fixture. I laid the tile myself. I did the shower tile. I didn't hang the door. I think my ex-partner, he was the one that hung the door. So like everything. Paid for it with working 2 jobs, going to school.
Wow.
It was one of the first things that I would say that's a taste of development for me. And then from there, my partner was very risk adverse, and so we couldn't scale. We just kind of kept hitting a wall where we'd get really close to purchasing something. There's a house 2 blocks away that had a house with a basement that was legal height that could have been turned into a duplex, plus it already had an ADU on the back before it was called ADU. So basically that was like, okay, that's the next thing for us. We'll live here, go buy that, and then we can continue to grow. But we were like 2 weeks to close, a couple days before our inspection period was going to end. He got cold feet for respect reasons and like what have you. I was like, okay, we'll just find the next one. That house, we would have bought it for $215 in 2021 when everything got crazy.
Yeah.
It sold for $550.
Wow.
So.
What was the reason on the inspection that, was there like a legitimate reason that scared him off, or was it just just taking on this big of a project?
He came from a family that was very conservative with money, as in like you have your 401k.
Yep.
You have
no interest in real estate.
No interest in real estate. They own one home.
Yep.
They've paid towards their mortgage, put an extra couple of payments towards their mortgage every year.
Yeah.
Like very, very thoughtful and conservative with their money. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't work in the real estate game.
Yeah.
Right. Hard to develop when you.
Yeah. And he and I, when we split, he did end up actually going and buying a house down in Albany that he rented out later when he moved.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm proud of him. Like he's doing the thing still. So it's good. It was a good transition. It just was, I want to do much larger things that would probably scare the shit out of him. And he wanted to do the more, he's very methodical.
Yeah.
He's an engineer. So like engineer's mind.
Okay. So was it split soon after that?
Split was in 2018, so we had about 3-ish years of going back and forth on projects and everything kind of not really happening, fizzling.
Yeah.
Getting really close to the finish and then pulling out, basically.
Oh, I'm sure that was really frustrating for you.
Yeah, it felt like I had a weight on my leg or my wings were clipped or something, and I was just like, I couldn't breathe sometimes, but I wasn't really necessarily him. It was just my own ambitions trying to like push me farther than I could go at that time.
Yeah,
totally.
So it was good, I guess, experience because I was underwriting a lot of deals that I never did.
Yep.
And I was getting a lot of experience and learning a lot of knowledge that led me to where I am now. If without that, I wouldn't have been able to do this project. So there's a lot of knowledge that I didn't know I was absorbing for this purpose 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for.
So you're just starting college. You've got your first project under your belt, and then did that like you were just immediately looking for other projects, or like what was the evolution of that afterwards? Like was your field that you were going into and studying in the similar vein, or?
No, I had no idea. I was going to school for the purpose of going to school, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's good to learn how to learn.
I mean, I would almost say it's a Sprague mentality where we have to, like, there's that expectation that we are taught at that high school we are going to go to college. So I will go get a bachelor's degree in something,
Sure.
whether I use it or not. So when I transferred from Chemeketa to Western, because my project was right here, and it's like I can live in it when it's done. It just made the most sense. I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I took a few classes, decided to do an art major. So I actually hold a bachelor's of fine arts with the intention to be an art teacher later.
Yeah.
Because my parents were investors and teachers, and I was like, I need a W-2 somewhere.
Right.
But now that I'm where I'm at now, I'm like, you don't really, like, there's ways around that. Other people's money and flips, like, there's ways. Do that for 2 years, you might be okay.
Yeah. I mean, let's jump into that. Like, you know, you get your degree, and you said you thought you needed a W-2, but you don't. So can you talk about some of those strategies and how they work and how you can get started? Like, let's just say you're doing your first project. How would you get started without a W-2?
Without a W-2 with your first project. So I would say the main reason you need the W-2, in my mind, is if you don't have the experience to back yourself.
Yeah.
And if you have the experience but no W-2, you can take that to family, friends, hard money lenders, gator lenders, even maybe a bridge loan, and be able to show your skill and your ability and underwrite a deal and just make the numbers make so much sense they can't say no.
Yeah.
And then use that money to put the down payment that you have through a hard money lender to actually purchase your first flip, or maybe your first fourplex, or you house hack it or what have you. So that's what I would say the W-2 answer for me.
Okay. And when you were starting, I mean, out of college, did you actually get that W-2 that you said you were going to do?
So, kind of. I finished with my Bachelor's of Fine Arts in 2018, and I took some time to decide what I was planning to do, whether I was going to go teach or work at a gallery or what have you. I just felt lost, and there's a really great mentor recently that said at a meetup where it was basically like, sometimes you have to kind of pause and think, and you don't really realize, like, at the time that the universe just hasn't figured out what direction you're supposed to go in. Mm-hmm. So I did that for about 6 months, and I was with my partner at the time, so we had the project rented out. So it made sense for me to just, like, not work for a little bit, like 3 months or so. And then my beloved 4-year-old lab passed away, and it just destroyed me. And he was a black lab. He meant everything to me. He was my first kid, basically. So I was like, I need a change. I've always wanted to live abroad. Where can I live abroad where I make the most money and I can get there the fastest? Because my ex and I, we were just not working out at the time anyway, and it just felt right. It was a good, clean break. And I think it took me 2 months, and then I started the visa process to move to China. And I lived in China for just under a year because of COVID. So loved it. I taught English there, was paid really well. The work-life balance is amazing.
This was at like a foreign international school, or where did you choose that?
It was EF, what is it? English first, actually.
English first, okay.
So
yeah, because I remember when I was teaching in China, there was like people were looking around and like, where's better price per, like pay per cost of living, and I think Korea was the top when I was over there.
Yep.
But it sounds like China was good when you were there, and this was 2019.
Yeah, 2019. May of 2019 is when I left. So because it took a good while to do that visa process. Korea was just a lot harder to access at the time. So it would have been like a 6 month.
Oh, I see. It would have been a longer vetting period or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then some of them required you to have a master's.
Oh,
and I didn't have the master's at the time. So it was kind of one of those, like, the first job that I got, but it also was a great job. Mm-hmm. When I went over there, it was very much, okay, I need to get hired into an international school that's here because I'll get paid better. And I won't have to work weird hours. Because we were the after-school education. We weren't the 8 to 5. So, one of the best experiences of my life before, being a parent, of course. The goal originally when COVID happened, we went to Bali because our managers were basically like, oh, it's going to die down. It'll be fine. You just go take an extended holiday. I was like, okay. So we spent 2.5 weeks in Indonesia and Bali, in different parts of it, like Seminyak and then Canggu. And I wasted all of my savings.
Right,
And I made lots of bad choices.
So you do when you're traveling.
Yeah. So, and then that's when I was like, this isn't really what I want to be doing. I want to be investing in real estate. I stayed at 2 or 3 hostels and was like, I want to have a hostel someday. So I would like to have a chain of hostels in like each country that I felt was my most connected, as well as a few here in the Pacific Northwest at some point. So that was the goal. I thought of that and I was like, I'm going to go home. So I went home, packed up my apartment, left China, and the next day or 2 days after or something like that, that was the last flight out of Shenzhen. So there was only one other airport. Like I had to go to Japan just so I could go from Japan to get to Hawaii and then Hawaii to Portland. It was crazy. But Hong Kong closed the border the next day. Yikes. And then it was already crazy. Like I had to walk across the border instead of taking the taxis or the train like I always would have. So
interesting.
I came home and the goal was basically make enough money to have passive income that I can move back to China and just live there so well. Right. Because the cost of living there is so much better compared to here. Yep. And there's so much access to everything. You want to go horseback riding, it's like 2 blocks from your apartment. You want to go karting, it's 3 blocks from your apartment. Like there's everything.
You walk to everything. There's good food everywhere. It's super affordable. Yeah.
And I could live off of Chinese barbecue, honestly. It's the best food. So that was the goal. And then it turned into COVID here. And I bought the project that is now the Cottages.
Okay, so that was the first like real big move you made.
Technically, no. So there's a 4-plex in Independence that I got under contract. At that time, I was still kind of in Delulu land of like, I want to leave. I'm going to go get my master's in Italy. I got accepted to this amazing school that gives you an American master's degree for 1 year or 2 years. They only select 7 people of all their applicants, and they selected me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I got to go do it. And I want to live in Italy for a little while. So that happened after I got under contract on that 4-plex in Independence. And I was like, well, I'm not going to stay, so I'm not really going to have the time to fix this up. Talked to my then hard money broker. He's like, well, let's just find another investor and you can sell it to them. And I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. Like I had no idea of wholesaling or like simultaneous close or any of that. And I just let him kind of guide me. He found a really great couple who's investing all over the area, and they bought it from me for $30,000 more. Decided that they didn't want to pay cash for it, and I was like, you know what, I don't care, I'll take terms. So they paid me a couple $100s a month for 2 years, and then I got $30,000.
Wow. So
that was the first deal I did here. At the same time, I was under contract on a house with an ADU in the garage over 4 or 5 blocks from here.
Okay.
But it was again one of those things where I was like, well, I'm probably not going to stay. At that time, I had a very, I call it mild W-2, meaning I wasn't making a ton of money, but it was helping me kind of buy deals. It was giving me enough credibility that I could buy a house that had an ADU that would be able to afford the rest of the mortgage that I couldn't afford. And then I was going to house hack. But I was still in my mind that COVID wasn't real and I was going to go back to Italy.
Right.
All that stuff. So I basically, there was a bunch of foundation issues and I was like, that's not really what I want to deal with from another country. So I pulled out of that one, closed on the one over in Independence. And then my mom forced me to go look at the house that is now the Cottages. And I was like, I don't want this house. It's so much extra work and I'm not even going to be here. The next week I find out that the school is closing because of COVID. And they are just so underwater with financial debt because of it, trying to get their kids that were in the school previously home or what have you.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'll go look at it. we open the door and it's like 2 layers of carpet that are disgusting. Literal piles of mail, like clothes everywhere, an old TV on its face.
Like a hoarder's house, basically?
Almost the hoarders level. It was more like squatters or old people. It was gross, and especially upstairs. Like, there's one room that just had like animal feces in it in the back. And then when we lived there, we fixed it up a decent amount, but we knew we weren't going to keep it. It was a tear down. So in the living room, it was this beautiful old oak flooring that we refinished. But if you stood in the middle and kind of like hopped a little bit, the whole house would move. It was terrible. But we have some of the best memories there. Like, we brought my daughter home from the hospital there, my first daughter, and that night the heater stopped working because it was so cold. So we put a duvet cover up on the living room, and my husband at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, installed a cadet heater.
Oh, nice.
So that we had heat for our newborn that we just brought home. Like, it was rough living, but it was some of the best times. And our dogs, of course, found the feces smells upstairs, even though we kills the crap out of the floor and everything. So we had to board that section off because they kept trying to go poop up
rip
there.
it open out. Yeah.
Squirrels lived in our attic, in our walls.
Was this a hard money buy?
It was a hard money buy.
Okay.
So it was on the market for $220. He fell off the market. We looked at it while it was on the market. It fell off. And then that's when everything changed with that other house, and my school closed that I was going to go to. And so it's like, what am I going to do next? Well, that one lot, I could put a fourplex on the back, turn that house into the duplex. That was the original play. So I sent him a letter. I was like, what is it going to hurt? I sent him a letter, and I was just like, hi, my name's Kelsie. I'm local to the area. Your house was on the market. Are you still interested in selling it? This is how I found your information, because at that time, mailers weren't as popular or common, and I figured some guy getting a random letter, he might get creeped out. So I printed out the Polk County summary statement that had his address and his name, and so I highlighted that, put it behind the letter, and sent it to him. Within a week, I got a call. He was like, I'd love to sell it. Let me show it to you first, because I think you need to see it. I'm like, well, he doesn't know that I've already seen it, but that's okay. It makes it easier if you can talk to him in person, I think. I'm just really awkward over the phone. So, and I don't know, this was 2020, so I think I was 26 at the time. I hadn't matured in the investing language as well as I would say I am now.
Sure.
So yeah, we agreed at sell. He basically took like 8 months, and I don't know if that's because he was waiting out a contract he had with the previous realtor, or a cultural difference because he was not initially from here. I honestly think it was a cultural thing, because as soon as I was saying my then boyfriend, now husband, I was like, here's my husband. He's going to help buy it and fix it up for me. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll sell it to you. So that's why I'm like, there's some fine line there. And my dad, he has a lot of experience, so he showed up and tore the whole place apart, basically being like, oh, the roof, it needs to be replaced. The foundation's going to need to be replaced. It's going to cost this. It's going to cost that. And basically we got him from $220 that he had listed on the market, which obviously that has some realtor fee built in, down to $160.
Right.
I took that to a hard money lender that I knew through my broker / my parents had worked with him a couple times. He actually lended for their house project they were in the middle of doing before I went to China. He gave us an additional about $20,000, plus wrapped all of our fees into the purchase. So we basically went to the closing table and they paid us to buy the house, which was like, at the time, I was like, this is great. Looking back now, I'm like, that was really great, because we just kind of kept having that same process happen repeatedly for this project, which is why it's a unicorn project, I think.
Right. Yeah. So you got cash out, do the renovations, and then eventually, because I remember you mentioned earlier that you had plans for like developing it, right? You were going to put maybe a duplex or something in the back.
Yeah.
And then after you guys kind of got moved in, got it fixed up or whatever, you were planning to, what was your kind of next, what was the obvious thing?
I would say that, like, when we first closed, so we closed on it, and the following Friday, our intention was to live in it, but my husband's lived in some pretty interesting homes before, and I always had a very clean environment because it was important to my parents, who grew up in a very rough environment. Well, my mom specifically, but first thing was to get the house livable for us, and then from there refinance it into a home equity line and get more cash.
Okay, so like bring the value up so you could cash it out.
Yes, without having to spend too much money. So, I mean, they fixed a ton of things. We didn't really redo the kitchen. We added 2 cabinets that were just extra in my dad's barn. We call his barn Yule Depot because it's just like full of stuff you can salvage that he's got from random places. So he let us use his cabinets, and he had this countertop thing that we cut in half and was able to use it as like a Formica countertop with a rubber edge. It was kind of random for a kitchen, but it worked. And we sacrificed, I guess is the right word. We sacrificed for a little bit, and we made it work. And I think we spent probably 15 maybe total over the course of 4 months. But we closed and found out that I was pregnant with my first baby the Sunday after closing. So I was emptying out this hoarder house, thankfully wearing a mask.
Guess that gave you a deadline, right?
Yeah, thankfully wearing a mask, being like, okay, well, this has to be, livable. And then 3 days later, I found out I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh, it needs to be more than livable. You have to have air quality and heat and all these things. So it definitely put a little more stress on it. And I was starting my master's program for teaching because I was still like delusional in that fact. So we were kind of flipping this terrible teardown house, starting a family, and I was getting my master's and working full time because I ended up working at Sprague full time that same year, all at the same time. And that really slowed us down. Yeah. But it worked well enough that my income, my W-2 income and his W-2 income, we took the loan that was a hard money loan to the bank, and they gave us a $300,000 home equity line against the house because they did a drive-by appraisal. Okay. If they would have walked into that house, there's no way. So when I found out we were closing, I was like holding my breath until we signed.
Waiting for them to drive it.
Yeah. So very thankful for that. But have you heard of Burn to Learn?
What's that called?
Burn to Learn?
No.
So most county fire departments, or even some cities, will do what's called a burn to learn on structures. So basically what we ended up doing was we donated the structure to the fire department, and they come out and they add stuff like they paneled up the windows, they created 7 different scenarios in the house, and they burned the house down for us, basically.
Nice.
And it has to meet certain like DEQ requirements. It has to be so far away from other structures. I have to get a letter from my lender that says that it's okay for me to burn down my house. Right. Super weird when you call to ask for one of those. Yeah. MAPS Credit Union was not fond of that, so I went back to my initial hard money lender and was like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what I'm going to build. At that time, I had decided on cottages. Okay. And this was, what was this? Probably April of 24. And I was like, this is what I'd like to do. Here's my pro forma. Here's my budget. Here's all of this information. He's like, well, the house or the lot's worth it anyway, so I don't need all this other stuff. He wrote me a letter, and we figured out a way to close.
So he looked at your plans and was like, I don't care. The lot's valuable enough.
He could see the value in the lot even before I did. So it was just like he was letting me learn the process, I think. Because he does all kinds of, he partners with people and he lends. Oh, interesting. So he's doing all kinds of apartment complexes and what have you at this time. And just like, oh yeah, if you bottom out on this, I'll just build some apartment complexes here, That was his backup plan. So yeah, the bank didn't want to close. He saw the value there, but we also had to be somewhat creative because if he put the debt on there when I went to go do my construction loan, it could potentially make it so I had to bring cash to the table. So I had another lot in Independence. It was this old house that was basically condemned. She held on to it for 20 years too long, basically. Mm-hmm. And I bought it from her because it was such a good deal that I could pull extra cash out and buy, what's it called? My 6 acres. Use that money for my down payment for my, what's it called? Seller carry. Mm. So this is where it gets like a little bit more of the creative financial side of things. I essentially took the loan and refinanced the loan for that. And sorry, I should have turned that off. Essentially, the loan became a second on my property.
Okay.
And the first was on my Independence property.
Okay. So you cross collateralized with your other properties.
Yeah, I moved the debt essentially. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the cleanest way to put it because it gets really kind of convoluted. And when I talk to my husband about it, he's just like, I don't need to know. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, long story short, right, is a lender wants to collateralize something, right? They want to have a lien somewhere, and some lenders are flexible where they'll be able to just, okay, I'm going to put a note on this collateral instead of that collateral.
Yeah. So we were able to basically be creative with the debt, move the debt off of the lot essentially to another property, and then the secondary lien was able to be cleared with what the appraisal came back for the construction loan. Mm. And then through the process of time and refinancing that extra little tiny bit that didn't get covered from the construction loan, about $50,000 will get paid off. But nice. I just refinanced it because I wanted to use the funds for something else. So it's kind of one of those things where it just kind of keeps going.
You keep snowballing.
As long
just
as it
refinance
goes the right
in
way.
Perpetuity.
Yeah.
And somehow never have to come in with cash.
Yeah, as long as it goes the right way. As long as it's getting cash back at the table rather than, like you're going into a hole.
Right.
So you have to be careful.
Right. Because you're continuing to improve it. But it's interesting because I remember you mentioned you had a different plan, right? You were going to build a few duplexes, and then you were almost halfway through your submittal process, right? And through your permitting process.
Yes. So technically the initial first concept of when I called the city to be like, what can I do here? I was just going to put a fourplex on the back. Like I wasn't thinking highest and best use at that time. I was just thinking, what am I capable of doing? Or what would be the next step for my evolution of doing a 1-bedroom from that to what's next, right? Because I have all of this credibility from helping my parents minorly with his massive projects that he's done, but I'm not on title for most of those.
Right.
So to a bank or a lender or even a hard money person.
Yeah, they're going to ask you, how many projects have you done in the last 12 months?
Yeah, I'm essentially brand new, right? So that really kind of made it so I hit the wall a few times and I had to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. After the first few phone calls, I realized it was residential high, and I kind of realized what that meant in our jurisdiction. It just meant I could put a lot more than just those 4 units in the back. So at that point, I was like, okay, what can I put on here that's easiest? And at that time, without having the knowledge of how much it costs for an architect or an engineer, I was like, oh, well, I have $100,000 play basically here from my home equity line. I'll use that $100,000 to entitle this project. So I went to basically the city and was like, what does it cost for me to put like a duplex on here? And then it's like, okay, times 3. I can fit 3 duplexes on here. Here's all the setbacks. I'm figuring all this out on my like free, what's it called? Architectural app.
Okay. Yeah.
And like moving them around, trying to figure out the highest and best use. Like they all have garages, had to have a ridiculous amount of parking because at that time the code required like a parking space per bedroom.
Oh, interesting. Per bedroom.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was also me building for something that I would want to live in to the point where it was just not going to pencil. Like I wanted a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Like what college kid wants to live in that? Especially because one of the rooms was like tiny. But I transitioned from that to, you know, I was going to do like a duplex and a 4-plex. And then I was like, okay, I can get 3 duplexes and a single family if I maximize that awkward little sliver of my property. Took it to a few contractors. They bid it for me way too high. The biggest thing is I didn't want to pay $200,000 to $300,000 for somebody to do something that I was like, I am neurotic enough I could do myself.
Right.
So, and I have my dad to help me as well. If I ever needed anything, I just call him and I'm like, I don't agree with this person. What should I do? So it was at a time where I just didn't really believe in my ability, and I didn't understand I was as knowledgeable as I am. So
Totally.
I was pregnant with my second daughter, and I ran into an investor at Isaac's downtown, just randomly. They were on the phone, and they sounded like an investor, and I was like, oh, are you a realtor? Like, kind of being a little bit offensive. They're like, no. And they're like, you should go to the SRE meetups. And I was like, okay, I might try it out. Had my daughter. She was about 3 months old. I was losing it from being home so much because I was like part-time teaching at the time. My husband's like, you need to go do something. Go to the real estate meetup. Go talk to people that are like similar-minded as you. And that was about, well, she's a little more than a year and a half old now. So about a year and a half ago. And since then, a lot of it was realizing I was more capable than I am, or I'm more capable than I thought I was. Sorry, I said that weird. And so why would I go and pay a builder to do it if I could just do it myself? Because I have touched every trade from start to finish on a project. Not all in one project, but over the course of the last 15 years, I have seen every single portion of it. I just didn't believe I could put it all together, I guess. And then that's when Cottage Cluster kind of kept showing itself back up in the process of re-entitling this lot.
Because that
to
passed,
make it pencil.
like,
about a year before that.
not too long before. I mean, people weren't really doing this.
Yes, exactly. Nobody really wanted to touch them because they didn't know how that was going to work out.
New zoning thing.
Yeah, and I talked to 3 different investors. I was like, is this even worth it? Are they going to perceive it as one house with a bunch of rooms? Or are they going to perceive it as an apartment complex? Or how will this appraise? So I talked to 3 different, one that does cottages, one that's an appraiser. Any appraiser I ever talked to, I was like, how do you think the cottages will be perceived? Just because I wanted to make sure I was prepared.
Yeah. I bet you got a lot of different answers.
For the most part, it was the same. It was just like, there was one guy that said, no, don't do it. And I was like, why? And his answer didn't feel solid enough to me. Where the other people were like, yeah, they'll just see it as an apartment complex. It'll be great.
Okay.
You're going to pay a little bit more in siding and, you know, having extra exterior walls, what have you.
Oh, you mean from the construction?
From the construction side.
I thought you were talking about it from the valuation side.
The valuation side should be the exact same.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, we'll risk it because worst case scenario, I just have to sell the project or figure it out. It's kind of one of those moments where I was like, you sink or you swim, and I'm going to have to swim. Like, this will be fine. And have a little bit of that lucky girl mentality, as somebody said to me. So basically figuring out, like, if I put this positivity in the project, I'm prepared and I'm doing all of the work, there's no reason I shouldn't succeed.
Well, and I mean, I think you make your own luck, right? I mean, you put yourself in the position to have that opportunity. And for our audience that isn't like super familiar with the cottage cluster zoning, which is kind of unique to, I think it's pretty unique to our state, and it's pretty new. Do you want to just give like the 1,000-foot elevation understanding of what cottage cluster means and what it allows you to do in residential zoning?
Now, I might not describe this as well as some of the other investors, but I would say it's part of the middle housing code that was adjusted, I want to say March of 23, at least in my jurisdiction, is when it became available to the code. It is where you are allowed to have more density on a lot that otherwise would have been restricted to maybe one single family or 4 units on a single lot. Or in my case, which is a residential high lot, I could get up to 22 units. I'm still required to have the same parking restrictions. I have to have a courtyard. The courtyard can be included with hardscape, though. It doesn't have to be like just grass. It's usually 15 foot from foundation to foundation. I do hear that some cities are going to change that to 20 feet. I don't know if that's happening or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's super nuanced. Yeah, you've got to meet the requirements, but essentially, right, you were able to, on this not even a half acre lot, right?
Yep.
It allowed you to put how many units?
15 units total. So we got 13 2 bedrooms, and then we have 2 1 bedrooms, and it's 0.45 of an acre. So previously,
and it's a flag too. It's not even just like a rectangle.
Correct. It's a flag lot. So we really maximized, and I almost wonder if we would have been able to get 15 just because of the parking. If it was rectangular, maybe that helped me. I'm not sure. I've never sat down to pencil out that concept, but I could essentially have gotten 22 if I could have made parking work, but I couldn't make the parking work. So 15 was the highest and best use I could find, with also the cost to build. So the same square footage for me to build the 3 duplexes in the single family like I intended. I think it's like 200 square feet more total. And I'm making double the NOI.
Oh, and then you mentioned with the duplex and the triplex that you had to get a parking spot per bedroom. And with this, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, I think that was changed at the same time for the middle housing.
That was part of the middle housing code.
Yeah.
Okay.
It because of the residential high density, and that's because it's so close to the college, the parking restriction just changed to 1 per unit at that point.
Okay.
And help us understand, like, because oftentimes, like, the permitting entitlement process is just such a bear to get through. And you kind of made it sound like this particular cottage cluster the permitting was relatively straightforward.
When I was going back and forth of like, well, I could get more units and just do one big building, and then it might save me a headache and some time. I was going through that process of kind of comparing, contrasting my options and talking to the city. I went to like 2 to 3 different pre-apps just because I like more information before I make a decision.
More is better, right?
And I took both of them in there, and Carter, who's with the city and planning, was basically talking me through both options. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, well, what does it look like to get the approval process? Are we going to have to go back to like city notes and 21 days and planning commission and everyone touching it and deciding? Or is there a faster, like, can we do, because I had a previously accepted development, they could basically, it's like a half version of that if I would have went with the other option, but it still would have taken probably 6 more months. And he was like, well, if you do this, it's just like applying for a single family house. I was like, what? That can't be. He's like, yeah, it's basically 15 single family homes.
Nice.
And at that time, I had only penciled for 11 because I hadn't made it as efficient as I could yet. So I was like, okay, well, 11's a lot better than 7, or 11's a lot better if I can get it done faster.
Yep.
And so I basically went home and stayed up till like 3 or 4 in the morning and made 15 fit. I actually had 16, but I couldn't quite. I could have applied for a parking designation, and they probably would have accepted it because of the walkability of the neighborhood.
Right.
But I was like, I don't want to
risking go back through this again.
Yeah. I was like, we're going full steam ahead. Nothing will delay us. So I went with the 15. And it worked out. I
mean, so yeah, we've talked about a little bit from the valuation perspective, from the building perspective. And then additionally, there's like from the lending perspective. So, because you could condoize these because you're keeping them as rentals, but theoretically you could condoize them and sell them all off, right?
Yeah, it would be like a detached condo unit, which is supposedly pretty exciting to lenders right now.
I mean, lenders much prefer to lend on detached condos that aren't like, you don't have to worry about everyone else's siding, everyone else's roof with this like massive HOA that's got all these crazy things that make it hard to insure. So that's and so like, what would that process look like too? Would you have to like change your permitting structure or anything, or if you wanted to sell them off?
I never went down that path because the city, at least a dozen times, kept being like, well, are you going to sell these? Do you think you'll ever condo? Do you think you'll want them to be able to be separated and sell part of them? And I'm like, It is appealing because there's definitely times where I only have to sell 8 of them to pay back my hard money loan.
Right.
And so I can
Which means you could have 7 free and clear places from one build, which is,
I think it was about $6,000
amazing
a month, where it's just passive income of $6,000 a month, I don't know. And that would be, we talked about it the other day. If we sold them for less than market even, we could get 10 of them sold, 8 of them would pay off the loan, 2 of them would be like $600 in our pocket, and we'd have 5 of them to rent, and that was about the $6,000 a month or so. So it's like, that's really appealing. And now I understand why the city was probably being like, hey, you ever thinking about selling these, you know? I never went down the condo side because it just doesn't make sense. I haven't put like $50,000 down or a ton of money into the project that requires me to get my ROI like quickly at the end.
Right.
Like this project was paying me to do it. It doesn't make sense for me to go and be like, well,
you don't need to sell them to recoup your cost. That like,
I should hold it. It's just it makes the most sense to hold it, even though I don't want to really deal with 15 tenants at once. Maybe 17 tenants if I mid-turn rental a couple. So yeah.
Yeah. So you financed this entire project on hard money, and when did you start that, and how long is your term, and what is your game plan after that to refinance as soon as you finish?
It took about, so we'll refinance once we have stabilization.
Yeah, I just want to mention that these are still under construction because for anybody who's listening, we literally just walked one. So, yeah.
Close though. You're gonna be done soon. You're gonna be leasing up pretty soon.
I suspect we'll have occupancy on at least 3 or 4 of them within the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, great.
We're mid-July, so yeah, that would put us right around mid-August. So I will do a DSCR, cash out refinance at the end, pull out some equity. We have about a 70% loan to like value loan right now, but that includes the money that was used to pay down the land note to remove the lien, and it also includes $225,000 of an interest reserve, so we're not making payments while we construct. Which was why I chose the lender that I chose, because they offered those options, as well as I'm only paying on the debt that I've drawn.
Nice.
I don't have to pay for like the whole pot that sits there, which is
Dutch or whatever financing they call that.
Yeah, the Dutch lending rate. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. But there was another cheaper slightly in fees that I didn't go with because of that. Basically Dutch lending or Dutch interest. Anyway.
Does anybody want to explain Dutch?
I mean, like she was saying, I think the idea is that having to pay on your draws, like just the amount that you draw. So it's like more like a line of credit, like pay as you go, right? Every X amount of time the contractor needs to order doors or something like that, order siding, then they take a draw and then you pay on what you've draw, versus taking the whole amount of interest from the project total at the beginning and paying for it the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, essentially it's just not having to pay for the pot that sits in the escrow account that they're drawing every time you submit the contractor's draws.
Gotcha.
Right.
You're only paying for the drawn amount, which is huge. I'm not like the first 2 months I paid like $7,000 or something. The last one I looked at was 2 months ago. Was $11,000.
Okay.
But when I'm all drawn out, it will be $25,000.
Oh, okay.
So it saves a huge, like my interest reserve will be extended basically.
Yeah, instead of paying like 25 the whole time, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. No, I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was really appealing, and I was like, plus you'll do 100% financing. You guys are my
and by the time you do draw, everything is drawn out, and you're going to be, you said $25,000 per month?
$25,000. So technically my project, if it's fully leased out, will stabilize. It will cash flow.
Even with the private money.
Even with the private money.
Oh,
which makes,
wow. And that's,
yeah.
On like the worst terms possible.
The worst terms possible. So that's why the lender was just like, of course we'll do 100% financing for you. Because the numbers make sense. So that's where it's like, maybe I haven't been building long enough for some banks, but my numbers make the most sense. So a hard money lender's like, heck yeah, let's do this.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that makes sense. And oh my God.
That's by going back to her point about finding an offer the lender can't refuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find an offer you cannot refuse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. So I think you asked me earlier about the lending process. Basically, it took us about 3 months to get to close, maybe 4 months. And then I turned that off. Took us about 3 months to get to close. After we closed, we broke ground, I want to say second week of November of 24.
Yeah.
And now we are in August of 25. No, we're not. We're in July. Sorry. I'm really hopeful this baby will come out, I think. We're in July of 25. So we have LVP going down, kitchens, like flat packs being delivered. We're really close, basically, to having occupancy at least in 2, like in the next probably week or 2, depending on if our speed with this heat keeps up.
Everything's going to be ready for school time.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's about, 8 months, 9, 10-month build. And there's been a lot of delays in there on my part with my sequencing, just because like I had the flu and I was pregnant in the beginning. So I was in the hospital a ton, being pregnant. I do not resent my pregnancy and I do not resent my project, but I do have the mentality of like, what can I do if I wasn't pregnant? Like, how fast could this project have gone if I didn't have this exhaustion or nausea or constantly having to go to the doctor?
Sounds like a pregnancy and a project go together with you.
Yeah. No. Well, that's the funny thing is this baby completes our family and we started our family with this project.
Yeah.
So it feels like a very like whole moment where had my first kid, brought her home to this house. I'm kind of like we need to just live in one of them for like a month, like the midterm one, just for a month, just so we're like, we completed our family and started it at the same time for this project.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. No, I mean, if you cash flow with hard money, like I can't imagine once you refinance, like how well this is going to be doing. And plus you're holding for, you're not selling any of them. So this is would you say it's like a forever hold?
Probably. The intention through the whole process was I will leave this to my daughter someday. But as the process of it gets to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to deal with 15 tenants. That part scares me a little bit.
Yeah, you can always put under imaginary if you have to.
Yes. After the first year of, once we're fully stabilized, refinanced, and like probably that first year of lease ends, then we'll probably go to a management company.
Yeah. And because it might be tough because, not tough, but Monmouth is, obviously a college town. So you're going to expect a lot of students and transitions every
regular
summer.
Turnover.
Yeah. So the joke is that we have 2 deadlines and we'll see which one's first, which is obviously going to be the baby at this rate because we got slowed down there in the middle.
Yeah.
But the first deadline was, okay, the baby's here, so I will have to take a brief period of time away, and I put some things in place for that. But the second deadline was the college renting season.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't start school until the last week of September, but a lot of students will start arriving September 1st. So I have to have these done mid-August, late August at the latest. Really, Labor Day. That's kind of like the end goal.
Yeah, we had a previous podcast with someone who was doing student housing, and if you miss that deadline of getting people in, then you drastically have to start dropping your prices and doing things to get people in there.
Yeah, and I've definitely added some amenities here and there, like a fully tiled shower instead of a surround. Trying to have fixtures that are nicer, but I mean, I'm not paying a lot more for them. Just because if I do, there's 15 of them to stabilize. Yeah. If I don't get full stabilization in that season,
right,
I need to appeal to the
Can you
young
have a
professional.
product that someone else will go for?
Yeah, like young professionals or travel nurses or
Right.
Yeah.
who is my other like demographic of person, which would probably be like right in Monmouth. There's 3 hospitals. We have the Dallas Hospital, we have the Salem Hospital, and we have the Santiam and Corvallis. So we're a great location to be midterm rental for travel nurses, or even like maybe in the insurance side of things.
Yep, totally.
But it's not my space. I don't pretend to know too much about midterm renting.
About to find out.
I might have to find out. Yeah, especially because if I can midterm rental 1 room and double a units, like that could make a huge, 25% plus increase in my NOI if I have like
Totally.
3 or 4 of them
Yeah.
midterm rental. So
Yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah, speaking of like numbers in general, for the number of people out there, what's just like your approximate ended up cost to build?
my cost to build. So
Or like total development, I guess, including soft costs, yeah.
I think the construction costs are just over 1.9, and then all the rest so I have 2.5 of a loan. That's the hard end of that. It's just under 2.5 technically. 1.9 of that is the construction costs. And the rest of that is fees, the interest reserves, what have you. So I am somebody who likes to crunch all the numbers and get them exact. And so my cost to build does change.
Sure.
And it does include vertical and horizontal costs. So our soft and our hard costs are all in that cost per square foot. But it does change because I recently went through all of my plumbing budget, and it was going to cost me about $36,000 for fixtures. And I brought it down to 24.
Okay.
Because I wanted a different product. I didn't want the standard like what you get from the fixture gallery in Salem. That's expensive stuff there. That's nice. I like the nice expensive stuff is the problem. But I also don't really sleep with the pregnancy night owl stuff. So I can spend 3 hours in the middle of the night on Amazon finding the knockoff version that's still brass, still great quality.
Still good quality.
And-
just not the name brand.
And it costs $100 instead of $300. So, and they gave me a midline budget, my plumber did. But I was like, can I wiggle this down and then just not have to pay this? Because sometimes you have to pay it no matter what.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So I knew I was paying a little bit more for a shorter water heater, $43 each unit. And I found my shower pans were, I think they were $270. Initially, they were going to be like $650, just because that's what product was available to him at that location.
Yeah.
And I found them at Lowe's on sale because they were just like getting rid of them. I was like, perfect, let's get these.
So you really went through all the details.
I spent a lot of time on it. And I think that at a certain point, I realized I am too involved as the construction manager in this project to be able to go and start working on my other projects that are just waiting.
Right.
So I might as well go full, like lead into that completely and find where I can cut costs.
Right. And then next time it'll be a little easier.
Yeah,
You've got your formula set up.
Yeah. And a lot of the products were like the faucets I'm using, same name brands that I've put in all my other rentals around the corner. It's the Kraus off of Amazon. They're great.
It's just a quick question. I mean, I know a lot of these things are just easily to swap out in terms of like light fixtures, like they're all generally the same size, etc. Like the shower pans, that's an interesting one. So you just had to make sure it was the right width and everything, even though you had all your architectural plans and everything all done.
Yes. So architectural plans called for a 60-inch like length tub or shower.
Okay.
But through the engineering process with shears and air barriers and all these other requirements, it basically got down to the product would have had to be a custom pan. And I don't want to pay custom.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm cheap, but I like the champagne, right? Like it's the beer budget, champagne appetite. So I was like, okay, well, wood's cheap. I can just have my framer add a little wall, shorten it down to a standard size, which we went from 60 to 48. There was some miscommunications with the air barriers, so we ended up having to like strip it out a few times. And if you're not aware, there's like restrictions of how far your toilet can be from something. Like the front of your toilet needs to be 21 inches or more away from your shower if it's like right there. Or it's 24 if it's an opening pivoting door on your shower. So
Can't have your toilet in the shower like China style.
no, you can't. 'Cause it was pretty tight. In China, I think it was as big as this table was my bathroom.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. You know, we don't really need that
Got
much
everything
space.
you need, yeah.
So, we broke it down to that. And then because of all the extra restrictions, it ended up being 30. So you have to be able to have enough turning radius inside your shower for it to count for code as well.
Yeah.
So we had to get an arched pan.
Oh, gotcha.
And so that was a
Interesting.
little bit of a stressful week trying to make sure that that arched pan wasn't going to be impeding that. We have like a 2-inch excess that we are working with in front of that toilet. So it doesn't feel small when you're standing there. And maybe that's why the code does it that way.
That's what the code's for.
But it seemed crazy to go from a 60-inch to a 48-inch by 30.
And going back to the big overall number, so we were looking at about 2.5 total development, and then what did it end up appraising for?
Oh, okay. So the end value appraisal?
Yeah.
So the end value appraisal is 3.7 and some change. So like 3.8 basically.
3.8.
Because it's like 3.79.
That's a pretty good first project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we don't want to keep you too long, but I think you put in. Well, you mentioned, and I want to say jargon, like seller financing and all these other things, and this is your first big project. If someone was wanting to get into like development or flips or all these things,
Yeah, if you're gonna do a cottage cluster,
yeah,
if you're gonna try a cottage cluster,
if you're gonna try a cottage cluster or just a bigger development in general, how do you get started? Like, what would be your advice to someone who wants to get started?
I would say biggest advice would be like, don't be your own worst enemy. Because most of the people that I talk to at the meetups now that are just starting out, they are stopping themselves before they even try or before they even get started. And it's like, there's no way you can fail if you find the right project or if you make that project work. Like, don't force it. Everything is easy. When I decided to do the cottage cluster, it felt like it was just breathing after that, rather than trying to force like an 11-unit apartment complex. So don't step on your own toes. Absolutely. First off, don't step on your own toes. And then you don't have to necessarily pay for all the gurus and the masterminds and doing like thousands of dollars of education a year. I think that works for some people. And if you need it, absolutely. I mean, I was lucky enough to have my parents to watch them do their version for, 15 years. But it might cost you the cost of a coffee. Go and invite an investor to coffee and ask them 1,000 questions and figure out what type of investing is going to be like breathing for you. Like, what is the thing that you're passionate about? Don't just chase the dollar so that you can find financial freedom or cash flowing to X amount. Like, you have to be passionate about it. Because when I wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning and I have 4 emails from my draw coordinator or my subcontractors, that's not stressful for me. And I taught for 4 years, and that was constantly waking up for that was the hardest thing I did every day.
Yeah.
So if you love the project and you can make the numbers make sense, you're going to find somebody who will fund it for you, essentially, and you're not going to be stressing yourself out along the way.
love that.
Yeah, that's great. And if someone was looking to get a hold of you or get in contact with you, what would be the best way to find you?
So you can search Kelsie LPJ on Instagram, and you'll be able to see mine. My handle is at rei.odyssey. It's got a little blue cowboy hat. Otherwise, there's Facebook. I'm pretty open and available, so if you just reach out to me there, I usually will DM you back pretty quickly.
Great. Well, hey, thank you again so much for your time and for letting us walk your project.
Yeah.
Good luck with getting it leased up and the baby.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Happy to have both of you here. Thanks so much for this.
Yeah.